All right, and we are live. We're going to wait for a few seconds for people to join. And for people who are already here, can go ahead and use the Q&A module to ask questions. All right, we'll start probably in 4 minutes, 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yep.
Natasha, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hello.
I think she was having technical issues as well.
Yeah,
Hangouts. Exactly.
I'm in a hotel lobby in Nashville, so we'll see how well this goes.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been running around Nashville for like 4 days, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I've never been. I heard music is great there.
The music is phenomenal, and we're coming right into the Country Music Awards, I guess. So the place has gotten nuts fast. But it was fun. It was on a startup bus, which is really cool, and everyone should check that out too.
But do you actually code on a bus? I mean,
3 days on a bus. Yeah, it's a hackathon. I did it.
I'll probably like throw up if I stare on the screen on the bus. I mean, that just sounds like a very
I forget
comfortable situation.
The front or the back is much more stable for coding. I don't remember which. It's not so bad. It's a lot of fun. This year, usually it's with South by, but this year they did it with something called 3686, which is a conference for Southern Tech. It was cool. I just flew down because I did it already a few years ago. So
okay. You skipped the bus experience of the startup bus.
I was
so
talking.
You just did start up, basically.
I was talking and then hanging out, yeah. So. Good. Yeah, it's cool. You should come to Nashville. It is fun. Cool.
All right. Only 2:03. I'll wait for a minute or so. So yeah, I just kind of get a little bit of housekeeping out. So basically, the way this is going to work is I'm going to have each of the organizers introduce the conference, essentially when and where, and how is it like to speak there. And then we'll go straight to audience questions. So people who are impatiently waiting for us to start, please ask questions. So if you click on the Q&A app, which I have the organizer view, so it's different from the audience view. I believe that there's an icon on the top right corner. There's a 3x3 grid. If you click on it, you can enable the Q&A app, and then you can go ahead and ask questions. That way, we can answer them. Okay. All right, we have 10 viewers. I think that's a good number to get started. So welcome to this edition of the Technically Speaking webinar. This time I'm inviting 3 organizers from 3 different Droidcons. Droidcons are Android conferences. And since Google I/O just happened last week, I thought it would be fun to have people come and talk about their conferences, and also for people who are interested to speak, kind of brainstorm or just bring up ideas, topics that they may want to talk about, and maybe the organizers can give some feedback. Maybe this topic is such a beaten horse, like don't talk about it anymore, or this is great, but perhaps you can change the angle a little bit to suit the audience, things like that. So I am Chu-Ki Chen. If people don't know me, I am the organizer and the co-editor of the Technically Speaking newsletter. We'll first go to Kevin from Droidcon New York City. So Kevin, tell us about Droidcon New York City, when and where it is, and what is it like to speak there?
Droidcon NYC is, well, it's an Android conference happening in New York, August 27 and 28. Should be a pretty interesting time. Last year was our first year. It was also our first conference, so good learning experience. This year, I think right now, 4 tracks. Roughly the same amount of talks, 50, 60, somewhere in that range. I think they're 40 minutes each, and that's it. I don't know. Talking should be good. I'm right by a pool, so I don't have to move.
Fun. All
Yeah.
right, I'm just going by the date of the conference. So I think next is Droidcon Stockholm. And I will have Eric explain how it's like.
We're before. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, I actually think the Droidcon Stockholm is before New York, but I'm not sure. Anyway, never mind. It's so we
Kevin
have
said it
Droidcon
was
Stockholm
August 27th to 28th for Droidcon New York City.
That's my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's Droidcon Stockholm. I think we're into the fourth time we're having it. It's kind of small. We usually have around 300 people. But it's usually very focused, and it's really great. We have usually one track, and it's a lot of really great speakers coming there. So yeah, that's and it's in Stockholm, Sweden. So
Cool. And then we have Shiv and Natasha from Droidcon London. Tell us about. Yep.
Hello.
On.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
oh yeah.
Okay, good. Right in time for the London section.
Right, so Droidcon London happens the 29th and 30th of October, so kind of around Halloween time. This year will mark the 7th Droidcon that we've had in London, and we're aiming to get about 1,500 people there at the event this year. Our kind of talks are split up into kind of 4 main tracks, so design, gaming, tools and best practices, and not phones, so anything that's not phones. Yeah, Tasha, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just our kind of focus with Droidcon London this year. I think, unlike Kevin, this is our 7th one, so it's like, what do we do to make this one, a little bit more significant? Perhaps we've been doing this for a long time now, so our aim is to not rest in our comfort zone and to push the limits a bit this year. So we've done a lot of, we did a call for thoughts to get ideas from the community, and we've been actioning our topics that Shiv mentioned, kind of based on what the community wants. And yeah, we're going to focus on some more advanced talks this year as well, because a lot of the feedback we've got is it's a little bit high level, and just aiming on a bit of a wow factor on the stuff and content. So we've set ourselves a pretty big challenge. So yeah, Shiv and I are working really hard to make all these things happen.
Excellent. I will go straight to questions. So that was actually a great segue. Nitya asks, can you give us a broad sense of what topics you would like to see? For example, that you don't already have proposals on. That way it will be a win-win, since we will reduce the redundant proposals from both submissions and reviews. Who wants to take this one?
Well, I can start. So what we usually see as submissions for us is the typical topic like testing and UI, how to do UI stuff. Those are very like custom views or fragments or those things. We get a lot of submissions on those topics. So if you want to be more safe, and you should pick something besides those 2 topics, but they're very popular to submit something around that. Then something that comes in every now and then is war stories, like this is how we built our app, and it's this is what happened, and this is how it went. Those are very interesting, but we can't have more than maybe 1 or 2 of those. We do get a few, and we try to pick the ones that we feel is more relevant to the audience that will be there, local stuff, that is.
There's kind of like what I want to see, and then I think what the community wants to see. Last year, we actually, having never run something like this, we got a really, really good set of like advanced, interesting topics, and I realized that like that's this many people who are going to be interested in super advanced Android. So we kind of also encourage like a track of roughly like if you're kind of getting started, a little bit of experience. That's cool. This year it's interesting. We got a lot of talks for Kotlin, and we got a lot of RX Java talks. So I wouldn't submit one of those if I wanted to speak. But other than that, I think anything with what came out of Google I/O might be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of am more curious to see what the community wants to hear. It's like we're trying. It's hard to explain the Twitter thing we're doing, but the whole idea is to kind of get some feedback from the community as to what they actually want to go see. So we're doing like putting up the talks that are being submitted, and then if people put a like retweet them and stuff, we're getting a sense. We're counting that up to see what people are really interested in. So that should be going out later today, actually. Everything's slowed down since I've been at Nashville. Everything
By the pool.
Yeah, by the pool. But yeah, that should be going out later today, and then we'll see what people are interested in.
Great. Anything from London?
I guess as Tash said earlier, the kind of outcomes from our kind of call for thoughts was that loads of people want to see talks on design and talks on like tools, testing, security, best practices. Those are the kind of main two areas that we've seen a lot of popularity from the survey that we carried out earlier this year. But I think, Kevin, as you said, like some of the new stuff that's come out of I/O, that's really, really interesting. There's some really, really cool stuff there. And I guess Droidcon's going to be one of the first places where people are going to be able to hear about them, like in more depth than what has been said at I/O. So yeah, anything new and cutting edge.
Yeah, that'd be good. I personally like anybody who wants to do something funky with hardware. I always love that stuff.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, and I'm seeing, this is what we all do, right? We make stuff, and we're seeing a lot more proposed interest in custom hardware builds and stuff like that. And if anybody has any information on how that relates to like the new OS they're working on, Brillo or whatever, would love that information. That would be great. So
great. So that actually goes into the next question really well. Yash asked, hi, there was a lot of emphasis on app indexing and search at Google I/O. Any interest in that topic?
probably.
Probably, yes. I guess it sounds like, yeah, in general, new things coming out of Google I/O. But it's kind of a good thing that we still have maybe 2 months until all these conferences are happening, so people can actually go ahead and play with them and then maybe present what they learn.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's one of the things, like, I have a hard time with, like, the due date and the call for papers kind of thing. Because, like, if somebody sends me the best talk ever, like the morning of the conference, like, they're gonna give it, right? So I understand the need of a due date to help push people along, but it just, there's the due date, and then there's kind of like, if it's really good, you'll probably still get to talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's actually a related question. I'm going to go ahead and move that up and ask it. So Nitya asked, there's a lot of news around Google M Preview, and probably before Droidcon happen, there will be a final release. So is it acceptable for someone to submit a proposal that says, well, I'm going to talk about something related to M, but I don't know what exactly, because until the moment he or she get on stage, things can still be in flux. So perhaps the proposal will be a little bit light on details, but just have an overall view of what topic he or she wants to present. Is that something that's thumbs up, thumbs down? You want actually a lot more detail than just, I'll talk about M and then
I would say this is a really excellent case for Barcamp. The Barcamp day, we really encourage people to make that really good. I think sometimes people have a bit of a different attitude to Barcamp. They think, oh, the main day is all the scheduled talks, but actually the Barcamp can produce some really interesting topics, and I think that would be a great example because they've got until the day to pitch it, so it buys them more time to think of something really interesting to say, and I think that would be a really good example of a great Barcamp talk.
Just to explain what is Barcamp?
Sure. So the idea of Barcamp, it's the first half of the first day of Droidcon London, and it's basically people pitch, I guess, their subjects that they would like to talk to the audience, and then the audience actually selects the ones they're most interested to hear, and then they become scheduled talks. So it's like a last-minute ad hoc. We don't know what these subjects will be. So it's almost like if you're doing an elevator pitch, for a startup, it's like you come prepared with your talk, and then you pitch it to the audience and see if they want to select it, and then we quickly put together a schedule on the day of the preferred talks, so we can advertise them, and then people can come and attend those talks exactly as they would on the main scheduled day.
And are those talks recorded?
Yes.
They are. Okay, so I have two questions for the other two conferences. Do you have Barcamp? And also just have in general the whole conference, are the talks recorded?
Do you want to go first? I'll do like not jump in there. I'll go. All right. For that last one first, talks are definitely going to be recorded. You're recording them very, very seriously this year. So that's absolutely, and we're going to try to post them as soon as humanly possible. If we can swing it, we might stream, but at this point, that looks a little less likely. As far as Barcamp, it's funny because I'm trying to remember, did we even talk about that? Because we were talking about it a lot last year, we ran out of time. It's probably not, it's like a maybe. Like, I was pushing to do it, so we'll see. I just did one a couple days ago here, kind of, so I'm all about it now, you know. It is very good at producing things you wouldn't necessarily expect. As far as to go back and, like, can you submit, like, something, like, I'm going to talk about Android M, but I don't know what yet, like, absolutely. It just, you have to have enough info to get it past the people who are going to be kind of voting on stuff. So if it's just like, hey, I'm going to talk about M, that might not be enough to get interest. But again, you know, going up like the last week of the conference, we're still like last minute deciding stuff. So if it turns out to be super interesting, you might sneak it in.
So related to that, like, would you encourage them, or would there be a channel for them to kind of fill you in with more details as the thing go by? Because right now it seems like it looks like just it's a conference submission form. At least for Droidcon New York City, it's just a Google form, so it's not like this. They have a way to like, oh hey, you know, now 2 months have passed and I have all this extra information. Yeah,
we're using Wufoo actually.
Different form.
There's no way to like easily edit it, but you know, the email just goes to me and another person, so we can just update your thing. Like it's a pretty it's pretty loose. It's not like.
Well, I think my question is more like, do you want people to do that, or you're already inundated with requests and stuff like that? You don't want to hear about these things.
No, people totally update their things, and since like we're gonna try to do this Twitter, get some feedback thing, it's beneficial for both of us, the conference and the potential speaker, to write the most enticing copy. You know what I mean? And so if you want to update it, we'll totally update it. Yeah, I mean, I might regret those words when we get like 50 emails a day, but so far it's just been a handful. It's been okay.
Yeah, no, because I'm asking because some people think that it's set in stone, right? They hit that submit button, they can't change their mind. It turns out technology changes very fast. So if they ended up, you know, having some maybe new thoughts on, oh, this is more what I proposed, but actually I think I would take a different angle. Like, so it's not set in stone. That's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, like I think the best way to phrase it, and I think this is, I know everyone else on this call, and I think you're all of the same mindset, like the Droidcons they're run by people who are primarily developers, so we just want the best, like, event, you know, whereas it's like, I feel like when talking to these other conferences, it's like, they're more concerned about everything else. So, like, if you write, like, hey, can I submit a talk? They're like, no. Like, that's it. Okay. So, yeah.
I think is like behind all the Google Forms and stuff, there are humans. That, you know, we are here standing behind them. So we definitely want to talk to you. And if you've got more ideas and suggestions and you want to change stuff, then absolutely, please kind of reach out and get in touch.
Great. I just want to give Eric a chance to explain if you guys have Barcamp at Stockholm and whether things are recorded.
Yeah, well, I think we haven't decided on the recording yet because the Droidcon Stockholm is run by me and 2 other guys, and we all work full time. So it's kind of very much community doing it. We're trying to, but we probably will try to get it recorded. Whether we will have bar camps is a different question. We haven't decided on that since we have 2 days, but we only have 1 stage at the moment. So we'll see about that.
Yeah.
I would like to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so but the current question about if someone would do like this lightweight proposal for M, yes, definitely. The same thing here as Kevin described. We have a Google Forms and we collect it all in a sheet there, and if you want to update your talk later, that's perfectly fine. Everything is just online anyway, so.
Cool. Yeah, so just to have a quick summary, basically. Yes, go ahead and submit something that is not like, oh, I know like my exact outline of everything I'm going to talk about. It's okay to submit an idea and change it. And I guess, even if it's not accepted, if the conference that you go to have a barcamp, you can still prepare for it and then just do it as a barcamp talk. I've actually seen that in Droidcon London, where I was really surprised people actually come up with slides, because the other barcamps I've been to usually is more like a little round circle discussion where people more like share what the experience is. But I've seen people pretty much bring on a prepared talk and present there. So that's a viable option. But I would say submit it anyway. Like usually my advice, I don't run conferences, but my advice is if you have an idea and you're not 100% sure whether that is something that people will be interested in, go ahead and submit and ask for feedback, because like all these people said, there are people behind that form. It's not like you submit it and then there's a machine that's judging you. So there are always room for improvement, or like room for talking about what we want to talk about, which is what I want to say next, which is people who are listening right now, if you have even half-baked ideas of talks that you may want to submit but you're not sure, go ahead and I'm sorry I can't invite you and have you say it, because we don't have that many capacity for all these viewers, but go ahead and ask it on the Q&A, and I should actually also look at the event page itself, because I know that the Q&A module is not exactly the easiest thing to find, so I'll also go ahead and take a look on the event page as well. So please let us know what you are thinking about speaking on, and then we can kind of go through it and see what our lovely organizers think. All right, I'm going to the next question, which is a lot more straightforward. Sebastiano asks, silly question, but please recap the call for papers and timings, please, smiley face. So he just wanted the basic information.
Oh, so we need to adjust our dates a bit, because we were basically shooting for an end date of late July, but then we also had talks released and announced in the same date, which is wrong, but essentially late July, I think. But again, it's a little fluid, right? So it's not like if we get a talk after that, it's out of the running. But earlier the better. And because the way it works is we have we're doing this public Twitter thing, but that's just to see what generally people are interested in. We have a group of people that are going to vote, and it's sort of like college admissions. If you get a good talk and it gets a lot of votes early, we'll pick it. If you wait till at the last minute, I don't know.
Well, so I just want to kind of emphasize something, which is a lot of people like to procrastinate. So I think Kevin's saying don't. If you can help it, submit early. It's in your advantage to submit early, because then there are more time for other people, whether it's the organizers or other attendees, to express interest and maybe give you feedback on, oh, this sounds interesting, but I would like to see it from the angle of I don't know, an enterprise, or an angle of someone who doesn't know how to do design but want to get into it. So yes, there's a deadline, but if you can submit it early, please submit it early.
Yeah, we actually do. There's a little bit of a feedback loop too. So earlier better, because what you said, several talks last year, it was hey, that's kind of interesting, but the feedback was they wanted to hear about blank, and talks were definitely adjusted, and that went really well. It's hard to do if you get we're already over 100 submissions, so if that picks up pace, it gets harder and harder to have those conversations.
Okay, so end July for New York City. Yeah.
End July.
Ish. Eric?
Yeah, so we don't have any fixed date for the end of the call for papers. It's more like when the conference is full and we feel like we have enough talks, then we will down. Basically, that's our approach right now. So
first come,
please
first
keep
serve.
submitting. Yeah, basically. So this is the same here. Even if you if you don't know your exact topic, submit the draft and say that you will work on an update later. That will work. So yeah.
So drafts are okay.
Send something.
You don't have to have every single word down to submit the talk. That's really good feedback for people, because a lot of people that I heard about it, they say, oh, I have nothing to say, and then I'll poke them a little bit, and they're like, yeah, there's this thing I heard about Iowa that I thought was interesting, but I don't really know much about it, so I need to look into it first. So it sounds like if there's a case like that, it's okay to tell, Stockholm at least, hey, I want to look into Project Tango, but I don't know what exactly yet. So. Cool.
It's a good way to motivate yourself also. If you submit something like a draft for a talk and draft for an abstract, and you submit that one first, you know you have to get back and you have to learn this. And, you know you have to get it up eventually.
Right. Shiv?
Cool. Yeah. So the London one. So we had originally set the deadline for this weekend, but I think we kind of overshot that a little bit. So we're going to be extending that to similar time to what Kevin was saying, sort of mid-July. And then we aim to kind of publish like a draft schedule by like early August. So that's roughly the time, the kind of time scales that we're talking about for London. Yeah.
Cool. I just want to tell everybody that Kate is here. She's the co-editor of the newsletter. She couldn't join us earlier, but now she's here. But I will still be running the show, so I think Kate will just be mostly watching.
That's
all right.
Place, Chuki. Don't want to go away.
Yeah, don't go away. But this is mostly an Android show, so I'm running it. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Oh, this is good. This is actually a proposal feedback one. So Mike asked, I intend on submitting a talk titled "Get Material on All the Devices with App Compat." Do you think it will be a good talk? I will cover material design concepts with code relating to the new Design Compat lab and maybe the old App Compat lab as well. Is this something that will be good for either or of the three conferences?
Sounds good. I think it sounds good.
Very good. Submitted.
Yes.
Good for it. I think using App Compact is quite relevant when it comes to building like real apps in industry because of the kind of needing to support older versions of Android and stuff, and it'll be quite relevant to the audience that would be at Droidcons in general. So absolutely.
Great. So Mike, go ahead. It seems like they're already saying that it's a good idea. Great. I have one last question. So people, please, otherwise it will be me talking and it will be boring. So please ask questions. Okay. So next question, mostly for Kevin and Droidcon New York City. So Nitya, she actually is in the New York area. I think that's why she was asking this. Any interest in doing a workshop at Droidcon New York City? That will be a jumpstart for a continuous series of workshops later in New York City meetups. Maybe start targeting beginners or intermediates. So using this as a springboard to get people interested to sign up for something that's longer term.
Like for sort of like training on the basics kind of thing. Like starting Android development, I guess. Is that
what? Oh, she said target beginners and intermediate.
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely talk about it. I was actually going to go the other way a bit, and like the night or before the conference, have like for people that have absolutely no Android experience, but like kind of want to get into it /go and get something out of it, to have a full like here's the basics.
Like a one-day boot camp.
Yeah, like here you go. But yeah, you know, we'll talk about it. The goal is to, I mean, we run the Android meetup in New York, and we're pretty close to the GDG people, so you know, we're all kind of literally or figuratively sitting in the same office sometimes. So we should just talk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think a bigger question is: are there workshops in either of like all three of them, or they have all session talks? That's kind of the bigger question there.
We had a code lab last year. We also had a big problem with sound bleed in the code lab, so that didn't. So I don't know if it wasn't heavily attended because of that, or it just wasn't. People didn't want to code. I think we're going to try that again, but in a different spot. So it's not just like noise. You know, it was rough.
And is that happening at the same time as sessions?
Yeah. Which also kind of created
compete the people's attention a little bit.
Yeah, at any given time, there's 5 things happening, which makes it difficult, right? So like that also hurt the attendance in the code lab, I think. I don't know. There's just too many things happening. Don't know what to do.
But I mean, generally, it sounds like you're pretty open to ideas. Just like if people want to do something at Droidcon New York City, just talk to you. Right? That's the sense I get out of this conversation.
If we can accommodate it and it makes sense. And it's not going to cost a ton of money. Like, we're definitely open to things because it's it's like everybody's conference, right? Like, we wouldn't have been able to do it if we didn't run the meetup, and running the meetup, you know, that only works because everyone wants to be there. So if you're not listening to what people really want to do, you know.
I see Shiv also nodding. So
You said it earlier, like it's run by developers, and so we kind of almost one and the same in terms of our audience and us. Like, we would be at Droidcons if we weren't organizing it as well. So it's yeah, whatever. It's almost like a group effort.
Yeah.
And with regards to workshops, we're planning to do them in London this year, and we want to theme them around our tracks. So it'd be really cool to have like a design workshop, and maybe a workshop on security best practices, something like that. Would be really open to submissions, but we definitely would really like to have a workshop alongside each of our like zones or tracks. And we also have the third day, which is the hackathon as well. That's a really good time to kind of look at this workshop style as well.
yeah, great. I didn't know that there's a hackathon as well. So that's a good point. And yeah, for people who are buying tickets to fly in, they may want to make sure that they budget that extra day.
Yeah, so the hackathon's on the Saturday, so it's a good excuse to stay in London for the whole weekend.
Great. All right, I am out of audience questions, which, as I threatened, that means I'll be asking questions. So what I'm actually going to ask is something that I heard about from Droidcon Berlin, and I'm not sure if it applies to the other Droidcons, which is that Intel is setting up a sponsorship fund to basically enable more women to attend Droidcon. I just want to know if all these 3 editions in London, Stockholm, and New York City is also a part of that, or that's something specific to Berlin?
I think that's.
Oh, sorry, go Eric.
Okay, yeah, we don't have anything like that in Stockholm this time, so we have a gold sponsor already that is gonna pay for most of it, and but we are planning on doing some, as mentioned before, some hackathons and stuff like that together with the Droid.
So let me clarify. So what that was basically Intel is picking up the tab for the ticket and also giving a little bit of, I think, up to 330 euros for travel, so for the flight ticket and the hotel, so that the woman who applied and get accepted can fly there and attend the conference.
They, as far as I know, yeah, like they're, you can apply for different Droidcons. So like we're involved, but like we're not really picking them. So you apply to the global, and then it would apply to New York if they pick you. So I think that's the way it works. I'd have to ask the people that
are. Just at Droidcon Berlin, actually, and I've been speaking with and working quite closely with the guys that organise it, and they're also handling everything from a global perspective. So this is something that I guess they've trialled now that they're taking leadership of global sponsors, and they've used it for their specific event. It isn't something that applies to London, but they did do a massive drive on diversity in Droidcon Berlin this year. So it wasn't just the Intel sponsorship, but it was also actually they did a talk about equality, and they had specific meetups organised so all the women at Droidcon could meet each other. So I think it's just a really big push that they've done. And as Kevin said, like if Intel decide to kind of propose the idea at other Droidcons, now that there's some system in place to globalise them, but as of yet, that hasn't quite happened, and they're all still run as quite individual events.
Okay, I have been informed that there's actually a lot of questions. I just need to refresh, and I have, and indeed there are lots of questions. I apologize. But the saving grace is that there's a question that is very related to what I just asked, which is that what kind of support does each conference offer to offset the travel or lodging cost? And this question is very nice. He said, if you're unable to answer, that's all right. Sometimes it's case by case, but I think it would be nice to give some information for people who may want to speak but was thinking that, oh, there's no way they can make it to the conference because of costs.
For us, you know, it's like, let us know if you're gonna need some help, and it's case by case. So the people, you know, some people last year we work things out. Yeah, but you should let us know. That's the best answer, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
okay. The same for us. We pay. Usually, we try to pay for those who travel far away, because we know that their cost is bigger. If you come from Europe, usually it's not so big cost to coming to Sweden. So, but let us know.
Yeah, it's totally case by case. We can kind of help you, maybe work with some of our sponsors and try and help you kind of find some more support for that. And we've done that in the past with a few of our speakers over the past few years. So yeah, just get in touch with us, and we can sort it out.
And don't be afraid to ask your company that you work for to support you, because I think some of the feedback we've had in the past is perhaps people don't know how to approach their own company and ask, but it's always worth asking the question as well, because it just maximizes the opportunity of somebody being able to help you out with your travel and expenses.
Great. So, I mean, it's also comforting for people to know that, you are not going to be offended as organizers if they ask you for help, because I feel like some people, I don't know, they're just timid, right? Like they know they need help, but then they're so afraid to ask. But so basically, I think the takeaway is ask your company, ask the organizers. If you need help to make this happen, there are ways to make it happen. So don't just like, oh, I will not even bother to submit because there's no way I can afford to get to the conference. Cool. All right. So now I'm so happy there's so many questions. Let me just ask the next one. So Anna asked, do you recommend submitting the same proposal to more than one of these 3 conferences?
Yes, definitely. There's like many of the really good talks are given at many conferences, and the basic reason is that most people don't go to more than one Droidcon. So.
Yeah, I'd agree. It maximizes the audience chance of seeing your talk. So if you are in the lucky position where you can travel to many Droidcons, it really benefits all the different communities, because some people might not be able to travel to the particular Droidcon you're giving your talk. So it just allows more opportunities for more people to see it.
Yeah, it's on top of that, it may be the same talk, but like I see people often, they'll give a talk and then tweak it with feedback from one conference and make it better, change things. And also, like, most of the interaction happens after the talk, right? You're walking around, someone comes up and says, hey, yada yada, what do you think about this? There's the different Q&As, totally. I would submit the same talk.
So answer is do it. I've heard people actually first-time speaker mostly come up to me and say, "Oh, I gave this talk, now I have to write another one." And I'm like, "No, you can do the same one. In fact, you should, like everybody's saying here. So definitely do it." Great. Next question. Let's see. Okay, Yash asked, "What do you do if you have multiple submissions on the same topics?" I think she's asking you as in the organizer. Is there a basically how you decide? I think she said, is a CFP abstract enough to discern which talk will be better?
We get a lot of this. It's partly like how you write your proposal is like gonna help if it's more interesting. But honestly, a lot of it is like everything in context. Like, for example, we got a few RX Java talks, and then we just recently got one from somebody from Netflix who like made it. So it's a little bit, it's easier to sell, right? So all that stuff kind of comes in together, I guess,
So related to that, I will ask actually, if say I'm submitting an RX Java talk and I'm afraid that someone from Netflix will also submit it, is it bad form if I submit kind of a second talk just so that I have more chance of speaking there, or that will just overwhelm the review committee and you're like, no, please don't go crazy on the submissions?
If you really in this case, like if you really want to talk about RX Java, I think it totally makes sense to submit like a general talk and then a more specific one. That's granted, if somebody sends in 20 talks, I'm probably gonna have to pull them aside at the conference, like, listen. But a lot of people are submitting more than 3. That happens. So more
not a problem.
Better.
Great. Any other people want to chime in on this? The fight of the proposals, if they're on the same topic, what happens?
I'd agree with Kevin's point. I think, why not maximize your chances of speaking? And, I think just to mention the bar camp again, I would say go ahead and submit your talk that you're the most passionate about, that you feel you know the most, because if you don't make it into the main conference with that, and perhaps your backup talk does, you could still maybe propose your original idea at the bar camp. So it's just giving you more opportunity. So I think it's a good idea to maybe have those options for yourself.
I guess different talks on the same topic would be pitched at different levels. So I mean, again, it'd be about knowing your audience and talking at a very advanced level versus talking at a very high level. So there can still be a lot of variety in one particular topic. So beginner versus advanced, for instance. So there are still different ways in which you can get around that.
There's also the fact that, I mean, if we get 3 submissions on the same topic, we would like to see new speakers as well. We don't have the same people coming year after year speaking about the same thing. So to say, we want to have a variation there, and as well give some new speakers opportunity to present them and show their face. So don't be afraid if you submit something on a topic, but unless there is someone who is very, very popular who will also submit on the same thing, we would like to see new speakers as well. So, yeah.
Great. So don't worry if you're not the guy from Netflix that wrote RxJava. We still want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Cool. I have a question from Danielle. She said, I was thinking of submitting a talk on making and publishing your own open source libraries. Would people be interested in that at all?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Like, that was the keynote at Montreal. It's totally an interesting thing. So, yeah, I mean, you know, obviously it's an Android conference to see if you can tweak it, but a lot of the people speaking and attending, well, everyone uses a lot of open source stuff. A lot of people contribute, and people that want to get into it, it would be interesting. So, yeah.
30 seconds. So sorry, I'd say that, yeah, it's all these kind of surrounding disciplines around Android are still very, very relevant to the audience. Remember that the audience is going to be people that work in the industry or hobbyists. So everything about kind of open source libraries, I guess the kind of tooling and best practices side of things is still very, very relevant to the people that are going to be there.
Okay, sounds like answer is do it. Great. Okay, next question. On average, what percentage of the talks are advanced versus beginner friendly? This is a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody else wants to go. I keep jumping in.
Okay. Yeah. So this varies a lot from conference to conference. So on Droidcon Stockholm, we tend to have a little bit more of the advanced talks, mostly because it's a smaller group and the audience is more advanced. We have a lot of mobile developers in Stockholm, so the ones who attend are really into it. But this varies depending on how big the conference is. I would say that I think it's more well distributed the big conferences, the more tracks there are.
I'd say in London, we'd also be very much looking for more advanced talks. Based on the survey we did earlier this year, a lot of people are would like us to move away from the kind of beginner and the hello world Android talks and more into like the really, really in-depth, deep dive kind of explorations of the topics.
Yeah, last year we added explicitly like a track on the first day that was like basics or core. We're still debating that we might do that this year just to get like sort of a wider group. But it was mostly advanced. They tend to trend towards advanced. I would throw out that I personally prefer like advanced, but it can be like really core stuff. Like if you have the best threading talk ever, that's awesome. A lot of times people trend to like, I want to talk about the newest framework. You know what I mean? And that's cool, but I feel like there's a lot of like not really paying attention to the fundamentals, but just throw a framework at it. So I'm partial to that stuff. So that's just me.
Great. I'm going to move on to the next question. This is more of a logistics question. When do you start deciding and telling presenters if our talks are accepted or not, just so we can plan accordingly? So announcement days.
Ours will be by August. So after we've closed the CFP and we've started reviewing them, in that period we'll start contacting the speakers that we would like to schedule, and you'll hear from us. You'll get a chance to review your abstract and bio and all the information that we're going to publish about it, and yeah, so by about August for us.
Well, we'll definitely let you know by August. No.
It's happening in August.
I know. Yeah, we're gonna start like seriously reviewing the talks we have now, and like have sort of the cutoff date late July, but we'll probably have a good idea, you know, pretty quickly what's gonna get in. So I would say end of July. But we're probably gonna pick some talks before then. Like, it sounds weird that we would pick some talks before the cutoff date, but like some talks are just obviously going to get picked. So that's the way we did it. So it's not like, I think sometimes people treat it sort of like a contest. I'm like, it's not really a contest. It's like, we just want the best conference we can get, right? So we're going to start letting people know pretty soon if they're like obviously going to get picked. But the latest would be, I guess, end of July, early August.
Yeah, we don't have a fixed deadline for the call for paper, so we let the submitter know as soon as possible. We review it and consider if it's a good topic and things like that, and then we let them know usually within a week or two. So that will go on until we have filled all the slots. Different for us.
All right, next question. I submitted to Droidcon New York City about working with Android Lint, but I was also thinking about developing for multiple form factors, tips and tricks, like Android TV, Ouya, phones, tablets, and Wear. Interest?
Ouya, I don't know. But no, they're cool. No. Submit another talk. This is a little general, maybe, so I would give a little more detail. And I think we have something that's very similar to this, but I have to check. But yeah, if you really feel strongly about something and you know it, submit it, and we'll see what people are into. By the way, it's made me think. There was on the Android study group, there was a kind of chatter about like picking something that you're not super expert in to talk about, and then using the time between now and then to become super expert on it. And not that just make sure you actually become expert on it before you talk about it. But that's a tactic that some people kind of use for themselves.
Fashion, I do that.
Yep.
So, other conferences, some with multiple form factor, be something that is interesting.
I think I'd say as long as you're passionate about it and you're going to make a really, really good talk on it, then go for it. Like, we're still in the kind of collecting of present kind of stage. So the topic sounds interesting. I think there's definitely value in that for the audience. But I think people want to be really, really passionate about your talk, and I think that's what brings across the better presentations.
Yeah, I'd second Shiv on that, and I'd say for me, I'd be really interested in anyone who wants to challenge us and show us why something's interesting. I think these are always great talks, maybe a bit of an underdog subject, but if you can present it in the right way with the right knowledge, then hopefully the aim will be people will walk away really interested in that subject when they leave.
Yeah, that's true. I like that, because a lot of times that was what I was saying before. Like, people are really interested in this new crazy framework, but like, seriously, if you give me the best talk about threading I've ever heard, like, I've learned a lot. If you could talk about developing for Android 1.5 and you just gave it really, really well, you might get a lot of people there. I'm not saying you should do that, but
Right, so don't always go for the shiny and the sexy. If there are some fundamentals that you think hey, people are using it but don't really know how it works, or there are pitfalls that they will only get into after using it for a year, and you want to bring it up in forefront. That's going to be popular as well. I don't think that people are only going to be interested in the shiny stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess if we're just throwing out all these ideas, like it's very uncorporate. Like this is very not corporate situation going on. So you can get funky with your talks. Like come up with something weird or interesting. Silly names for the titles, of course, always. Props if you need them. I don't know.
Oh, that's actually a good question for everybody who has not only organized conferences but been to a lot of conferences. What's the craziest talk that you've seen that is so out of the box that wow, that is inspiring? Props, I don't know. What makes it so weird?
I come to think of Mark Allison's magic trick in the beginning of his talk. That is kind of cool.
What did he do?
I keep remembering that one. He did a magic trick and lit something on fire. I think he did it in Droidcon London, so it should be on video as well.
That's right. It's in the video somewhere, but yeah, he did a magic trick. Fire was involved. That's what I can say.
But it's not like he put it in the proposal, right? It's not like he got in because he promised magic trick. He just kind of showed up and did it.
I'd say also, recently at Droidcon Berlin, a couple of mine and Shiv's colleagues gave a talk, and these guys have been in the development game for a while, so they kind of did a fun spin on it and did a joint talk and kind of talked about the hipsters of today, and they got out some funny bright colored glasses and wore them through their talk. And I think one of the things that can make a really interesting talk is if you have a really good topic you can do with someone and there's a great chemistry between the two of you on stage and you bounce off each other well and you can really hand over that. Some of the really good talks I've seen have been when two people have actually presented together, because half of the fun of the audience is seeing these two people on stage kind of bounce off each other. So I think those are always really good talks as well.
I think I've got to add one of the craziest talks that we had, I think, a couple of years ago was we had a professor from a university in London who gave a talk on how he sent a Nexus 1 into space and how that was powering a satellite. It was insane. The sea of people that were in the auditorium with jaw dropped, it was incredible. I think the videos are online somewhere, check it out.
Cool. And then kind of the flip side of that, I don't want first-time speakers to be worried that, oh, they're not going to set things on fire on stage or send things to space. What kind of advice will you give someone who has never spoken before but is interested in doing it at Droidcon?
So,
don't underestimate how much you know.
Yeah, and I was going to say, practice, practice, practice. Use your colleagues, use your friends, because the more, even if you're a bit nervous about your subject, if you can speak in a really concise way and you've calmed down those nerves and speak to your colleagues and let your colleagues and people that know you absolutely berate your talk, tell you everything that's wrong with it, because then you can add and change and prepare for all the things that might go wrong. I would really say if it's your first talk, find anyone you can respect the opinion of to have a listen to it, and maybe even look out for some local meetups that you can maybe test your talk at. Someone who I kind of helped give their first talk to recently, they did the talk to a small audience of 10 people, and then they did a local meetup which had about 30 people, and then they presented it at a Droidcon. So maybe if you have a couple of months to spare before the Droidcon, see what local meetup groups might be interested in it, and then at least you get that kind of audience practice as well. I really think it just makes it a lot less scary when you come to that stage for your first talk.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Like, go practice. I mean, for me, and everyone's different. Like, I get a little bit of nerves before I go for every talk, which is odd because I talk all the time. So, very stressful life I had now. Yeah, if you know what you're going to talk about, once you get set in a rhythm, you're really just speaking to the audience. So, you just need to have it like very present in your mind and to practice it. It's like any other skill. So, definitely. Sometimes people give talks and it feels like they're reading their slides to the audience. I would try to practice that out. Like speak as if you're speaking to people, but definitely practice.
Yeah, so I have a few tips here. That's the first one is that many people don't believe they have anything to talk about, even though they work professionally with something and they've been doing it for more than a year or 2 years, 3 years maybe. They know this thing, but they still believe they don't have anything to talk about. That is wrong. You actually are professional at this. You probably have a lot of interesting things to share. So don't be afraid to submit something about what you work with in your everyday life. That is actually interesting stuff that people want to hear about. And the other thing is, like, a lot of time when you do a tech talk like this, you have a demo, and I noticed that many people, they wait until the very, very end until they show their demo, or until the middle of a talk maybe. One tip I have here for first-time speakers is to take their demo and show the full demo the first thing you do, so that you like show what is it you're going to talk about, so you give like a context that is very clear, then everybody understands, and then you build up the expectation on how you work to make this happen. That is a really nice way to give the talk. You take something you take an app you have written, you show it off the first thing, and then you start talking about how you built it. That is probably could probably be a very good talk, whatever it is you made.
And one last really quick thing I was going to say, if you're a first-time talker, tell us, let us know. Like, give us a shout-out and say, hey, I've applied for your conference, it's my first ever talk. If you're nervous, we've all had to stand on stage and say things like, let us, like Shiv mentioned earlier, there's people behind all of this, and there's people that have attended and talked at many, many conferences. So just tell us it's your first talk, and hopefully we can offer some kind words of support. And don't be afraid to maybe own that on stage as well and be proud of it. Maybe get the audience involved, get them to all cheer you on for your first talk. I think it's sometimes good to kind of own that fear instead of hoping nobody notices.
I agree with that totally. Good point. Also, before I forget, if you have a demo, it's not a horrible idea to make a screencast of it just in case, because everything doesn't work all the time, especially when you're talking. So, just FYI.
I think also something to note that Wi-Fi isn't always the best at conferences. Don't rely on it. I got to admit though, Berlin was fantastic, but conferences in general that I've been to, they're not always the best. So always have a backup copy of your presentation. Don't rely on any network infrastructure per se, and yeah, I guess just come prepared.
Great. I have 2 more questions, so I'm going to have you guys answer them, and then we'll wrap up. All right? So from Nitya, she said, I submitted a proposal on voice actions existing and voice interaction API upcoming. Any feedback on the topic? I see a voice natural language interface as being more important for ubiquitous computing going forward. So voice actions, that's something that the audience will want to hear about?
I'm pretty sure they will. This is an interesting topic. I think, I've always been very skeptical to voice control things, but I'm starting to change my mind now that everybody starts using it. So I think this will be a very good talk. How you integrate this in your app and how you can make it better and stuff like that. Definitely.
It's definitely quite a unique topic, and I think given some of the stuff that's coming up, it will be quite an interesting topic to hear somebody's kind of somebody's input from or somebody's side from. So give it a go.
Okay, last question is much easier. Do all the talks have to be 40 minutes? Does that include Q&A?
So I'm pretty sure that we have 40 minutes as a whole block of time. So I would leave some time for questions at the end. They don't have to be 40 minutes. Some people will actually do half of that and then just chat. That happens. But there's 40 minutes of time. I would use it wisely, I guess.
I really like that. I think also remember that I think the average attention span of a human isn't very long. So to kind of, I guess, keep your thoughts. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the average attention span lasts for 20 minutes.
Right. So it's half of that. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I like short talks. If you want to give a 20-minute talk, then I'm more than happy to accommodate for that. That is actually a very good length of a talk, and then you can just have a answer questions later out off stage and stuff like that. So
Okay, that's the last question. I'm going to get everybody a chance to say something that they forgot to say. So, Kevin, you're always going first. Anything you want to add?
Kevin's very pushy. No, so about the conference, just an FYI that they keep poking me to tell this. The early bird ends today, so do that. And then, oh man, there was something else. Nope, I forgot it. Okay. Yeah, submit the topics. We're gonna pick some stuff. It'll be great.
Cool. Eric?
yeah, Stockholm, Sweden, always a great place to visit. We're actually hosting the Droidcon Stockholm this year in a rock club, so you don't want to miss that. Yeah, it'll be great. I can highly recommend coming here, speaking here.
And off to London.
A couple of things, I guess. Watch out for discount codes. There'll be a few floating around the Twitter sphere for your tickets. What else? We have a hackathon running over the weekend. So on the Saturday and Sunday, there will be a 24-hour hackathon happening in London. We have the prizes kind of provided by our sponsors. There'll be some challenges set, and we'll release more information about it near to the time. Also, I'm guessing around that time it's going to be cold in London, a little bit anyway. So like, just keep that in mind.
Bring an umbrella.
It's never really cold in London.
It drizzles though.
It'll rain at least.
Yeah.
It might not, Shiv. You never know. London's famous for being unpredictable, so
Very true.
back for all seasons. No, my only kind of final thoughts were, I think the common theme behind this entire conversation has been this is a developer conference run by developers for developers, so it's not really just about us making it great for you, but you making it great for each other. So we just really want to encourage, I would love to see some new speakers, like Eric said, anybody that thinks that they can really bring something to the community. If you do have an idea, whether it's a workshop, the more that you can bring to us, the more that we can work with that and do something for you. So we've still got 4 months until Droidcon London, so there's still time to add things and change things. So please do talk to us, because it's going to help us do our job and keep all of you happy.
Great. Thank you everybody for coming. And I will share a link to this video in the next newsletter edition. Okay? All right then. Bye.
Bye.